Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
So let's start with this. I know you're wearing a Penn State basketball t-shirt.
How about it?
But you did wear your red Columbia jacket in today.
I did.
The 49ers play the Eagles.
Yeah.
Because it's a red Columbia jacket, it does not have any logos on it. Is that your version of neutral gang colors, or what the heck's what was the deal?
I don't think they'd care. I think there's a good chance they'd see the red and say, get out of here.
But that makes it an average day for you.
I did make the mistake one time here of wearing a 49ers sweatshirt the Friday of Ohio State.
Oh, geez.
I walked over, I heard boos and boos and boos. Then I finally turned and face front. They saw the 49ers logo and quieted down. I'm like, oh my goodness, thank God.
What are you doing?
That was a young mistake many years ago. That was one I never made again.
I mean, who raised you? Wolves? What are you doing?
That was. I'll never forget that one.
You are one frightening dude.
The one time to my knowledge, at least, that I was booed by the Nittany Lion faithful.
Wow. Penn State 10th in the college football playoff poll. Everything's going to depend on how it plays out this weekend. Starting with Oregon, Washington, which will be Friday night. That is an absolute, I am going to lock in and watch that game and just enjoy it. I'll have everything prepared for the Bucknell game on Saturday, so I'll be set to go there. So I'm just going to put my feet up and watch that. That should be quite a game between the two. This time that is a true neutral site.
Field. Yeah,
that is a true neutral site, Las Vegas.
I think every playoff team right now is looking and saying, "Oh man, am I not sure? I want to see Oregon too." I think Oregon's
playing well,
as well as anyone right now.
No, they are playing well, and I give them credit. So this is what you have. Everything gets going at 7 o'clock on CBS Sportsnet on Friday. Let's give Jerry Kill all the credit in the world for this. They're 10-3 at New Mexico State. And remember, they opened with a loss to UMass. Right?
Yeah.
They're 10-3. They will play Liberty for the Conference USA Championship. Then Oregon-Washington is the Pac-12 title game. That's on ABC. Saturday, Oklahoma State, Texas. That's at noon on ABC. Alabama, Georgia from the Mercedes-Benz Dome. That'll be on CBS at 4. SMU, Tulane in the American Championship on ABC at 4. Michigan, Iowa on Fox. That'll be at 8 o'clock on Fox. And ABC will have Louisville and Florida State in the ACC Championship game. And the college football playoff rankings last night did come out, and Georgia is number 1 in the college football playoff rankings. Michigan is 2, Washington is 3, Florida State is 4. Oregon is poised there at 5. Ohio State, though, is 6. Texas is 7. Alabama's 8, Missouri's 9, and Penn State is 10.
Yeah, I think, and that's the advantage you have when it comes to playing on Saturday, because I think if Texas wins and wins convincingly and everything else plays out as it should, one of the top 4 loses, Texas gets in over Ohio State. I think it very good chance.
They do,
very
because they still have in their back
they have
pocket
that win over
on the Alabama on the road.
Absolutely.
That's the big one.
Absolutely. And not discrediting at all Ohio State. Ohio State has quality win too, but not on the road.
Right. Okay. Now let's get to this part, and then we'll go back to football in a moment. Here's a story. NBA tourney tiebreaker leads to confusion.
Yeah.
Point differential took on real meaning in the NBA on Tuesday night when some teams looking to stay alive in the inaugural in-season tournament needed to win and win big in order to advance. Not everyone involved was in love with the situation. The Knicks finished second in Group B behind the Bucks. Can anybody name who's in any group?
No.
But after beating Charlotte 115-91, the Knicks secured the sole wild card spot in the Eastern Conference tiebreaker because of their point differential in the preliminary round. Josh Hart of the Knicks, not too fond of the idea, said the Knicks had to run up the score on their opponent. He says, it was interesting. I really don't like it. We were focused at first just about winning. The last couple of minutes, it just felt weird. I was talking with George Blaha on Friday night. George is not only the Michigan State football play-by-play announcer, he is also the longtime play-by-play voice of the Detroit Pistons. And the subject, I think he's the one that brought the subject up, was about the in-season tournament. And I guess the players are all getting $1 million bonus to play in it. Really? You're getting $1 million bonus to play in the in-season tournament, which counts as regular season games?
Regular season wins, yeah.
What are we doing here?
I think a lot of it is the NBA is desperately trying to find that regular season viewership. And the reality is people know, look, almost half the league, more than half the league is in the playoffs. And that's where people start watching. And unfortunately, I've said for a long time, the NBA has that audience that so many people absolutely would love to have, and that is that young audience, that small young demographic, but it's hard to keep them engaged. And they try to come up with things to keep them viewing, and this is one they came up with that the minute they announced it, I didn't agree with it. I didn't think it was something that was really great on paper, and it's playing out the way I thought it was going to. I did not think this was going to be a huge success, and it's not been.
I mean, Jack Ham always asks me about TV ratings and contracts and things like that. He's very interested in it. And he always asks me, he said, what are the regular season ratings for the NBA? I said, Jack, they aren't very good. I said, now, in the local markets,
sure,
with the regional sports networks, the ratings are really good if you're a good team, for the most part. Although the NHL kind of defies that in some ways because the Buffalo Sabres ratings are tremendous, even though that they're not a good team. Every year their ratings are right in the top five, if not number one. They love that team up there, and they're just aching for a winner. But for the most part in the NBA, winning equates to TV ratings. Okay. That's on the regional sports network. On the national side of it, I said, Jack, they're getting 1.1, 1.2. It's not doing much of anything. This in-season tournament idea, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's a gimmick.
Yeah, completely. Well, look at the basketball courts. Look at the floors. Right. That's alone tells you it was a gimmick.
The whole thing is a gimmick. The number one sport is football in this country.
Always.
Easily. The number two sport's college football.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think everyone now concedes that the NBA is the number three sport. It's ahead of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, because of the audience it reaches. Baseball is struggling in a big way to try to find that audience.
Right. The young audience, I mean, they draw well with the young audience, 25, 54, 18 to 34. Once the playoffs come around.
Mm-hmm.
Not during the regular season.
No.
During the regular season, it's just so much meaningless. Players sitting out.
That's
when the players aren't taking it seriously, how are you supposed to take it seriously as a fan?
Yeah.
Right?
And there are so many things that are played by the Eastern time zone, too, without question. And you look at the top players in the NBA, how many play in the Eastern time zone?
No,
there aren't many.
No, there's a lot of the great stars.
Yeah.
Like, Wembanyama is in the Central time zone. Curry's in the Pacific time zone.
LeBron's thing.
In the Pacific
Giannis
time
is in
zone.
Central.
So
and that's a big part of it, too.
But to me, what does it say about Adam Silver's made a lot of really good moves.
Sure.
So this is not an indictment of Adam Silver, but it doesn't mean every move's a good move. This move made no sense to me. It's a gimmick. I mean, you're the number 3 sport and solidified already. You've got a TV contract coming up that people want to bid on.
In a big way.
Okay. Discovery, Warner, which is TNT, okay, they want to keep it. ESPN,
Sure.
they want to keep it. Oh, by the way, Prime Video wants to get into streaming. Right? So they're going to get money. Now, whether they'll get the triple number they're looking for, which would get them to $7.5 billion a year, I'm not so sure, but I think they'll get 6.
They'll get 6.
When it's all said and done, I think they'll
Yep.
get to around $6 billion when it's all said and done. And on this show, there's always a lot more said than done.
That's right.
All right. So, but I think that's where they'll end up in that category. That's and I think that's a plus for a league that for years was just going along and hanging in, and then Bird and Magic saved them, and then Jordan enhanced them, and then Kobe and Shaq kept it going, and LeBron kept it going. Well, now you got LeBron at the end of the career. I mean, they're trying to get you excited about Wembanyama. Like, okay, no offense, he doesn't excite me.
He's got to develop, and that's a big part of it.
I don't sit there and go, hey, I got to watch this guy tonight. I'm like going, hey, I think I watched a little bit of hockey last night, Nashville and Pittsburgh. But that's they do need to get to a number because they need to somehow offset the regional sports network problems.
Yeah. And to their credit, to basketball's credit, the regional sports networks, they were the first really to come out and say, hey, streaming's taking off. We're going to figure out a way that we can get these games streamed and allow that to our audience without cable subscriptions. And to a lot of these regional networks, they figured that out in basketball more than they figured it out in any other sport quickly.
Yeah.
And they did a great job with it, but it's not really helped much. The idea itself behind it was good, but it's not helped much in terms of ratings. It's not helped much in terms of the regional networks.
Yeah, and but they're going to have to make up for the money. That's where they're going to make up for it on the national side of it. But this is a gimmick. I'm just not into gimmicks.
No.
That means that when you need gimmicks, that means that you don't have confidence in your own product.
As you say, yeah, you're not trusting your product. Absolutely.
That to me is the big part, that you don't have confidence in your product when you have to come up with a gimmick. And that tells me a lot about them. The NHL doesn't do an in-season tournament, but every 4 years they get to play in the Olympics. Now, it turned out in Beijing they couldn't play because of COVID reasons. But I'm sorry, people aren't doing in-season tournaments. There's a reason why. They just play the game.
Well, I think it also it throws you out of rhythm too. You're playing a regular season, you win 6-7 straight games, and you get involved in this tournament, and okay, you got to win here to play the next round here, and then it just doesn't do good to the teams themselves either. What credit? Who is going to remember? Whoever wins this tournament. I'd even go as far as to say 2 years from now, who's going to remember who won this tournament? Nobody.
Right.
So what? I just don't understand.
Well, ESPN,
what is behind it?
ESPN will make a big deal out of it.
Absolutely.
Because they carry it.
They think, yeah, sure, they carry it.
But the vast majority of people will not.
No.
They will not think about it. But I saw that, and we're using point differential.
Yeah, well, you look at the Celtics fouling Drummond with a 32-point lead. We got to win by 23.
Right, I know. And Joe Mazzulla had to explain it to
Billy Donovan.
Billy Donovan, like, what the heck? This is what we're doing. This is why. And it's not the way anybody wants to play.
No.
Nobody wants to play that way.
And the casual fan, even the casual fan that is at the game, is not going to know that.
Right.
So he's looking at it saying the same thing everybody else is saying. What are they doing this for?
Yeah. And you just sit back and just shake your head. Like, it's a gimmick, and now you're doing this, which makes the gimmick worse. Right? I mean, you do that, it makes the gimmick worse.
Yeah, I agree.
But Okay, back to the college football playoff. I know you've got SMU in your Final Four. Any particular reason why?
Final Four in their in their own conference, or Final Four altogether?
I mean, no. I mean, look.
I mistook it for the NCAA brackets and needed a Cinderella.
To your credit, you're scary. So don't worry about you. All right. If everything goes according to, okay, those 4 will make it through. Washington, Oregon is going to be interesting. You feel like that's a de facto playoff game?
I think so, yeah, and the other one ends up probably in the Fiesta Bowl.
As you know, I'm not big on Louisville.
No.
I have not been big on Louisville all year.
Mm-mm. No, their quality win is a team that, to me, struggled and should have lost 2 or 3 more games. That's Notre Dame. So I think that is their quality win.
That's the Notre Dame Duke effect.
Exactly. Absolutely. 100%.
Like, what is the Notre Dame Duke effect? Wow. Please allow me to explain.
Very simple.
Right? In basketball, when Mike was there, all right, Wake Forest is 5-5 in the season. They beat Duke. Let's rank them 22nd at 6-5.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they beat Duke.
Yep.
Oh, right. Football, they beat Notre Dame. Let's rank them 7th.
Yep. Absolutely.
Really? Okay.
Well, you go back to 2005, the arguments for Notre Dame having a successful season. I said, well, what kind of... They didn't really have a successful season. Well, they almost beat USC. Okay. They didn't.
No.
Now, granted, there was an illegal play the USC scored on. They still didn't beat them.
I know.
That's the bottom line.
It's the Notre Dame Duke effect.
Absolutely.
If you beat Duke in basketball, at least in the old days, you got exponential
absolutely.
credit and more than you should have received. And if you beat Notre Dame anytime, you get more credit than you should again with that. They beat Notre Dame at home.
At home. Crushed them, too, I guess you could say. They beat them pretty handily.
Convincingly.
Yeah, they beat them pretty handily.
But that's it.
That's it.
They got blown out by Pitt.
Crushed by Pitt.
I mean, like blown out.
Yeah. Crushed.
Right.
Yep. Lost to Kentucky.
It's like lost to Kentucky. That was at home.
Yep.
So, I don't. The Louisville thing, I don't get. I don't think that in the end.
And they're in the New Year's Six. I think, to me, they're solidified. And they win, they're in New Year's Six. They lose, they're probably in the New Year's Six.
They have to have I guess the ACC needs to have an Orange Bowl team.
So to me, there's no way they can't be.
Yeah.
Because they beat Florida State, obviously they're in. And that hurts a lot of other teams fighting for the New Year's Six, because the 2 of them are going to be in. And if they lose, it helps obviously the other teams, but it hurts the ACC. Or it hurts everybody but the ACC. ACC gets hit.
No offense. It hurts.
The viewer too.
The New Year's Six should be about
who are the best
be in it.
Teams. Yeah.
Right. And again, I keep going back to let's talk about Liberty, Tulane, even SMU. All right. Let's talk about them for a moment. All really good teams. So let's not say they're not a good team.
Right.
They are. Over the years, Boise State was able to beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. I think Boise State beat somebody else too. They beat Auburn.
Because they're like one or two games away from winning all 6 New Year's Six, so they had to beat somebody else.
UCF.
No, they lost TCU.
Right. Okay. UCF beat Auburn.
Yep.
Right. Houston beat Florida State. Tulane last year beat USC.
Yep.
See, now that tells you that they can compete. Over here in the back, all right, if you're a talented team, which all those teams are, well coached, which all those teams happen to be, so that's 2 big pluses, you have the ability to get up for a game.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
This is our chance to show the world who we are.
Yes.
Against a team, right, that lost its last game. They did not win their way in.
Right.
Okay, USC didn't win
USC
their way
lost
in last
well,
year. They
yep,
lost
the
to
Pac-12
Utah.
championship to Utah. Yeah.
Right? Right. And is not motivated to play you. Okay, it's not like USC is sitting there and saying, okay, here's our bowl game. We're going to play Texas. Well, that's going to, you know what? We're going to show everybody how good we are. No, you're playing Tulane. We're playing Tulane. Right? Even though they're really good.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where the group of five concept gets blown up this year. Outstanding group of five program over the years has been UCF, right? Fair?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Really good group of five program has been Houston.
Right? Yeah, great.
Okay. Got into the Final Four, Cincinnati.
Yeah.
BYU. Okay. Over the years, not great,
good.
but they've been good. Not great,
Should
but good
have beat Oklahoma State Saturday.
As an independent. Right. All four of them joined the Big 12 this year, stepped up into the Power Five. You want to know what their combined conference record happens to be? 8-28. The point has always been, and this is what makes the top Power 5 teams the top Power 5 teams. You're sitting there and you have to get yourself emotionally ready to play West Virginia. You have to emotionally get yourself ready to play Iowa. You have to emotionally get yourself ready to then play Ohio State. You got to get yourself emotionally ready to play Maryland. You have to get yourself emotionally ready to play Michigan. You then have to emotionally get a physical Rutgers team and then Michigan State. You're playing power teams every week.
Week in and week out. Yep.
Every week you're playing.
And when you're at
teams.
the top tier, those teams are reaching to get there and playing their best game every week.
Right. And you're taking it, okay, but you're playing one power team after another. I mean, USC this year had to play Washington, had to play UCLA, had to play Notre Dame. Right? Now, they ended up in a 7-5 season, but that's the schedule they had to play. Okay? Imagine what their record would be if they had to play SMU schedule, Tulane schedule, Liberty schedule. What would their record be if they played that schedule? They wouldn't lose a game.
Yep. And you go back several years, but again, late 90s.
8-28.
Sure.
Okay? Went from the group of five, and these are all, right? Except for BYU. BYU's been an independent. They've been good. They've been, right? But the other three were all in the American, all considered top shelf. At one point, we're in the Big East, whatever, and they make this move up, 8-28 in conference play, because when they had to do it on a week in, week out basis, and they weren't playing Texas and Oklahoma every week, or Oklahoma State, they had to play Texas Tech, and they had to play Kansas and Kansas State and West Virginia and Iowa State. Those are the teams they were playing. Baylor had 3 wins this year. Well, guess what? 8-28. That tells you the difference between Power 5 and Group of 5 right there, because there is a sample size of Group of 5 trying to play a Power 5, and not one of them sniffed 500 in the conference. UCF is going to go to a bowl game. They're going to probably play in the Cure Bowl in Orlando, in all likelihood, because they're 6-6. In the conference, they went 3-6. They had the best conference record of those four, 3-6. So when they had to go game in, game out, game in, game out, it became a grind. And that tells you everything about the difference. To me, that is the perfect example of the difference between Group of 5 and Power 5. Group of 5, you can get ready for the game. Houston against Florida State in the Peach Bowl. Tulane against USC in the Cotton Bowl. Auburn and UCF in the Peach Bowl. Boise State, Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. Look, see what they can play with. No, you can do it on a night.
Well, I'll tell you
You might be able to do it on a couple of nights, but when you have to do it on a week in and week out basis, this tells you the grind. Those 4 schools which all came in with pretty much everything they had. Cincinnati, of course, new coach. Okay?
Yeah.
Right. But everybody else, Sataki was still out at BYU. Dana was still down at Houston. And, of course, Gus Malzahn at UCF. They were already, they weren't expansion teams. They weren't expansion teams. And those four could not handle the week in and week out grind. None of them came close to getting to 500 in the conference. Right? UCF was the best of the group. They went 3-6 in conference play. They had 38% of the wins.
And you take nothing away from their bowl wins, but how many times when they play these premier teams, obviously the team doesn't get up for it, number one, as you said, but the other part of it, how many players opt out? That's the other part of it that hurts the team. So, yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's any question that they can get up for one game. And I use the example, too, late 90s of Marshall. Marshall was undefeated, playing nobody, and then suddenly you draw a Power 5 team and you lose convincingly. You lose by double digits.
And again, this is not a knock against those teams, but it gives you a graphic example of the grind in Power 5. It's a graphic example of it. That's how tough it is to make that step up. Those four schools are very good programs. But when it came to the grind of week in and week out, not one of them was able to survive and get to at least in the neighborhood of 500, like 4-5, 5-4. I mean, 3-6 was the best. And and I don't know what the situation was with transfers and things like that.
Right.
That I don't know. Right? But you're talking about Cincinnati was 2 years removed from being in the playoff.
Sure.
You're talking about UCF.
Well, guys that were
everybody
drafted
knows about
high.
UCF. I mean, everybody knows. Houston's been good. People don't really feel like playing Houston, but again, it's the grind week in, week out.
I agree.
And that's the issue with it. That's why in the NCAA tournament, for example, and this is where the college football playoff. This is why they badly need expansion. What's the greatest upset in the history of the college football playoff? Ohio State is a 4 beating Alabama. When Ohio State's the upset winner.
Yeah, with Urban Meyer's your coach, who, to all his credit, wins at the college level.
Right. And they won the national title that year. But that's the biggest upset ever, a 4-1.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I'm kind of taken aback here. That's what makes the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, agreed.
So let's take Fairleigh Dickinson last year. Fairleigh Dickinson, which, by the way, did not win its conference. I believe, was it Tarleton State?
Yep.
Won the conference. Tarleton State then beat FDU in the tournament, in the championship game. But Tarleton State, because they had just ascended from, was it Division II?
I believe
it had
so.
To be from 2.
It had to
from
be.
2 to 1, they were in that transition stage, and the NCAA wouldn't let them go. So FDU, which did not win the regular season in the Northeast, FDU, which did not win the conference tournament, gets into the NCAAs because of circumstances. And then beats Purdue.
Number 1 seed, Purdue.
Right? 16-1. Beat
Second
Purdue.
time that's happened.
And on a given day, that can happen. What happened to FDU after that? Who did they get next? Florida Atlantic? Trying to think. I can't remember who they got next, but they didn't win.
They didn't win it. Yeah, I can't remember who it was.
Because you can get me. And also, there is a limited appetite for any fan for the underdog.
Oh, absolutely.
So
100%.
I remember the year Florida Gulf Coast with Andy Enfield as the coach, and I was at the game. I was at the game in Philadelphia, covering it that night when they beat Georgetown. And the whole place is going crazy. I mean, the Creighton fans were going crazy. The Duke fans were going crazy. The San Diego State fans were going crazy. Okay, great, right? Because, suddenly out of nowhere, they became the darling. They want to see Georgetown knocked out. And this is when Otto Porter was the star for Georgetown. They won the game. Hey, wow. Then they beat San Diego State. Whoa. Then they got to the Sweet 16. What was the lowest rated game of the NCAA tournament in the Sweet 16?
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, people weren't like, "Hey, I can't win." No, they were like, "No, where's Duke at Kentucky?"
Yeah, exactly. I think the one exception to that was the year George Mason had the run. I think the audience was there a little bit. I think the belief was there until they got to UConn. Then their belief went away. Elite Eight, they beat UConn, but
I disagree with you because George Mason played VCU.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what's the lowest rated Final Four game ever?
Yeah, that's true.
And I say that with all due respect because Mike coached in that game as an assistant coach.
Yep.
But I say that with all due respect.
Also ran into Florida the year they beat UConn.
Yeah.
Who dominated and won the national championship.
Right. That I understand.
Yeah.
But I'm saying.
Yep.
You're like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, people, absolutely. When you have two Cinderellas, you're not going to have that audience. You're not going to bring that casual fan. You bring the casual fan, and absolutely, to your point, I think you bring the casual fan in first couple rounds.
Yeah.
It gets later. People want to see Duke. People want to see Kansas, North Carolina. Yeah, and obviously the other high-ranked teams of now. But, yeah, I agreed.
And so that goes now to the football point. All right. Yes, a group of 5 team will get into the 12-team playoff. People will get all excited and do all sorts of soliloquies about, the group of 5 team, hey, they could pull the up. Hey, look, they deserve to be in blah, 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 blah. But it's like, and guess what? Say they win. Okay, like the team that loses is going to be like, oh, my goodness.
Most of those fans hate somebody that is in the top 4 and wants them out and says, oh, well, they're undefeated. Why is this? Where are they at? That's typically how it goes.
I know.
Typically how it goes.
Right. And that's
the only exception I look back on, and this team did not deserve to win the national championship, and this is also a Power 5 team that did not have the chance to play for the national championship. I look at the 2 years Auburn had their chance. Auburn obviously on probation in 93.
Sure.
I thought was good enough to beat anybody. That included that Florida State team in 93. I think Florida State was vulnerable at times in that year.
By the way, was the year after that Joe stopped voting.
That's the year.
He wanted to vote three-way split, and they wouldn't let him vote.
Sounds about right. And that was why. Because you look at the 2 teams that had one loss that were being voted, Notre Dame and Florida State. Notre Dame beat Florida State head-to-head, lost the national championship. And you look at the year Auburn with Ronnie Brown, Cadillac Williams, I think they were worthy of national championship consideration in terms of playing in the game. Whether or not they would have beat that USC team, I don't think so. But I think those 2 years are the exception to me. And that's a Power 5. That's a big difference.
Right.
And obviously Penn State in 94, everybody knows that one. I think that's there's no question.
Right. That's an easy target. So, yeah, that's. But damn. All right, let's get to 49 good San Francisco seconds as it leads into your Armageddon.
Oh, it's going to be Armageddon. It is. I have already heard a million things all week about this game. There's no question about it. But I think that, to me the Niners are going in healthy, which knock on wood, which I think helps a lot. Secondary's banged up, but Jair Brown's going to get his chance. He got his chance last week. First start, second start he's getting here. They're going to be tested. And
Jair Brown's a good player.
He's playing a lot better. He got beat. First play, he came in, got absolutely beat. Then he knocks the next pass down. He picks off a pass in the end zone on Baker. So that absolutely adjusts very well.
Yeah.
And to me, I think right now, getting up to Sunday, the biggest thing for both of these teams, and I throw the Eagles in there as well, both of them just need to keep their mouths shut, which neither team has done in 6 months. 49ers more so, but both teams really have not. And look, it's a big game. They don't like each other. I get that. But to me, that's the biggest thing. Just keep your mouth shut, play on the field. Easier said than done for a guy that wears number 19 for the 49ers.
Debo.
Yes.
All right, so here's the deal. A lot for the 49ers will depend on Brock Purdy.
No question. And the protection. Is he going to be protected, which I'm not sure he's going to be. I think that Eagles front four can overpower. They've not done it this year.
They did not overpower
but
the
I
Bills.
think they can overpower this 49ers offensive line. They have struggled in a big way.
Don't know. I don't know.
I think that's the one matchup I'm looking at. Because if you give Purdy time, he can pick apart that secondary.
As the season is gone, Carter's done less and less and less.
Still the defensive rookie of the year. I think he's played well enough. I think he's continuing to play pretty well.
We'll see.
Reddick has done more and more, though. I think Reddick
has done more. He didn't do much against the Bills.
He didn't. He just committed a penalty that wasn't called, but other than that,
Carter's done less. Davis has played the run better, but as a pass rusher, I think
conditioning-wise, he's in a lot more. I think that's helped him. I think he's kind of reaching that point where he's making that adjustment. So I think it'll be interesting how he finishes the year.
He did a great job of closing on Allen in the fourth quarter, but when he went down, he was out of gas.
Yeah.
Like he was exhausted. He came out. So...
Then the veterans, I think, are a big part of it, obviously. Is Brandon Graham the player he was 10 years ago? No, but exactly.
Right. The linebackers for the Eagles are really not of the upper crust of the NFL.
No, that's advantage 49ers, without a doubt.
Right. But here's the deal. The Eagles, to me, are essentially an 8-3 team that's 10-1. Right? Now, 8-3 is a really good record, but that really is essentially what they are.
Yep.
No, they're a 10-1 team. I mean, I'm sorry, they're not playing at the same level as a year ago.
No, not close.
And not only that, like, you want to talk about a team that gets every break? Holy mackerel, did it get every break? I'm talking bad calls that go their way. Stuff that's not called. You sit there and go, what am I watching here? The Buffalo game. It is, no offense, clearly a catch and clearly a fumble, which, by the way, ends the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I see blocks in the back on punt returns. I'm watching the Kansas City game. I'm going, why wasn't that called? And I have no dog in the hunt. In other words, this is not an he just doesn't like it. Has nothing to do with that. Zero. I'm a complete neutral observer when it comes to Philadelphia and the Eagles. I don't have a rooting interest at all. None. I'm just examining it from a position of, so let's talk about the pluses. Swift has been a much better player for them than I thought he'd be.
Ton better.
I thought he would be a good player. He'd be about the same as Miles Sanders, whatever.
Do they sign him at the end of the year is going to be a big part of it. He's a Philadelphia guy, which is going to help. But
is he a much better player than I thought he'd be? Swift
didn't get his chance in Detroit. He was it wasn't healthy a lot. Right. I will say that.
But he's been terrific.
Yeah, he has.
The offensive line, for the most part, is pretty
healthy.
Good.
Absolutely.
Okay, for the most part.
Juergens is an underrated guy in that line. I think the run blocking that he provides is huge.
Right. They miss Goddard, whom I think is a good NFL.
He could play this week, probably next week.
He's an upper-level NFL tight end.
Yep.
Brown is having a great season, but the last 2 weeks has done really nothing. Devontae Smith is obviously talented and has kind of picked up where Brown is left.
He's a number one receiver on probably 25 teams.
And defensively, they've given up more points this year than they have last year.
Secondary has been interesting.
In part because they're not possessing the ball as long on offense to keep them off the field. And Slay is an incredibly overrated corner.
He's a guy that commits a lot of penalties. That's one you're talking about right there that gets away with a lot, and that's Slay.
And to me, the MVP of the team is Elliott.
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah, Elliott's been incredible. This team, to an extent, reminds me, and I don't want to say fully, but a lot of it reminds me of the 2016 Penn State team with how they start games. I think the Eagles, with how they've started games, has been very questionable. At some point, you feel like that's going to come back to hurt them. And look, they have. Right. I think you can't take. Is Jalen Hurts the best quarterback in the league? No. But I think, to me, he's a winner, and that's where you're going to That's where he can will you to victory. He's not going to do it every week, though. There's going to be a point where that runs out.
He's committed too many turnovers this year.
That's
what
been
made
huge.
him an MVP candidate last year. And you know what? You could have given him the MVP. And,
I agree.
And he would have deserved it.
I think so.
He would have earned it.
Yep.
But he's committed too many turnovers this year. See, he didn't commit turnovers last year.
He's committed mistakes, too, that have been very, very questionable. And that's the Eagles as a whole. You look at the Dallas game, they run into each other, almost commit a turnover there down the stretch. There was a very bad interception in that Jets game. They should be, people, or you could say they could be 8-3. They should be 12-0, too. Or 11-0. They really should not have lost that game. That was on Jalen Hurts. There's no question about that.
But then again,
the wins have been on Hurts.
Dak Prescott steps out of bounds, trying to okay.
Steps out of bounds, commits false start, and takes a sack. Yeah, no doubt.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah, the Eagles are going to have the two.
In Kansas City, like my point about the Eagles,
the drops.
Kansas City lost the game,
no doubt.
Like, hey, we won. Yeah, sometimes the other team loses the game.
Agreed.
Watson had how many drops? Kelsey had how many? I mean, I'm talking like open drops where like
obviously the big
one. What did you do defensively to stop that play? How about nothing? Okay, 0. Even on the punt by Townsend that goes inside the 5, who missed the ball to down it? Watson did. Goes right through his hands, like looking around, like I'm thinking this guy's having a bad night.
Yep. And I think the ironic part of it was,
and I know. Hey, look, the bottom line is they don't do style points. They're 10-1.
No, they're 10-1. Yeah, that's absolutely.
But here's the.
They don't ask how you won,
right? But here's the problem I have when you get to the playoffs. If you have one of those days,
it could be
where you play the same level you're playing at right now, and the other team doesn't make mistakes because it's their day, you are not going to win.
Look at the Steelers a couple of years back. They won, 9, 10 straight games and lost that fluke game to the Patriots where Jesse James catches the ball and doesn't catch the ball.
I was listening to that ball. I did a game at George Mason that day. I was driving back listening to it.
But then, they go into the playoffs. They're still playing incredibly well. They run into a buzzsaw in Jacksonville with the Jaguars that just outplays them and wins the game. And that very well could happen. There's no doubt.
In other words, the Eagles last year could play their B-plus game and still win.
Yeah, and I think
if they play their B-plus game based on how they're playing this season, if they play B-plus to how they're... Again, I'm talking about relative to how you played all year. The Eagles last year were playing at this high level. If they played their B-plus game last year, they were still going to win. This year, they're not playing at this level. They're playing down at this level. If they play their B-plus game compared to the level they're playing at right now, they have no shot.
No, and that's the ironic part of it is, to that point, you talk about the Chiefs. I think you make the argument the better team lost the Super Bowl last year. The better team lost the regular season game this year.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
I mean, the Eagles did outplay the Chiefs last year, but again, Hurts made the big mistake,
the fumble.
The fumble, because that was a touchdown.
Yeah, and then Bradbury obviously with the penalty, which was a penalty.
Oh no,
that's not. Look, do officials let that go sometimes? Yes, but that was a penalty.
Except the problem is they got beat on that play all night long, so the officials were looking to see what you're going to do to stop it. Well, they decided to stop it by
same exact play, the 2 touchdowns.
Grab. Then there's the Steelers.
400 total yards of offense is the plus.
They have the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I was going to say they played nobody for a while here. They got the Patriots.
They could end up 11-7
easily.
It has to be the worst 11-7 team. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, they're not good.
I give the defense all the credit.
Yeah, they're phenomenal
because
I think Porter Jr. is playing at a high level too.
And so is Pat Freiermuth on offense.
Absolutely.
Getting Pat Freiermuth back and the fact that he caught 9 passes over the weekend shows the incredible value of having that individual in there for Kenny Pickett. I want to talk about Deontay Johnson for a moment. Deontay Johnson is a talented player. Is he among the best receivers in the NFL? No, please. Right? But he's talented. But there is no way I can keep him on this football team after this season, after what I saw against Cincinnati. Because
Agreed.
you're making a lot of money. Not a little. You're making a lot of money. And because something didn't go your way, I think, was he mad at the Steelers didn't challenge or something like that, right?
Yeah. Which the challenge they would have lost.
They would have lost the challenge. He lines up at wide receiver. They give her the ball to Warren. Warren fumbles. He turns and walks away. Bengals pick it up. They go the other way. What makes it worse is his explanation of it. Did you hear his explanation?
Yeah.
Well, I was just blocking the play. I just didn't see it. No, you just lied to everybody. That was a bald-faced lie. He didn't even move off the line of scrimmage.
No.
He didn't touch another player. He wasn't blocking anybody. He didn't move. Right? And then he just turned and walked away, and the ball's fumbled and picked up. Right?
And stands there.
Right? And stands there.
Cam Newton gave a better effort in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Hey, it didn't go your way on the previous play. Jack Ham, right away when we were working together, said that when they were at the Steelers, they had the ability. He says, look, you're going to have things go against you. He says, you have to go to the next play. And that's why his Steelers won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, because when things went against them, they went to the next play. They didn't let it linger. They went to the next play. And Jack's always talked to me about that. It's always given me great perspective on what should be done. And Mike Tomlin says he's got to let it go. Let it go. Guess who's going to let it go? It's going to be him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not Mike. I'm talking about Johnson.
Right.
Because, hey, you're making millions of dollars a year. It didn't go your way on the previous play. And by the way, on replay, it wouldn't have gone your way anyway.
Yeah.
Right? You got to get out there and go again, because guess what? That's what your team needs you to do. This is not the Deontay Johnson Steelers. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mm-hmm. Okay? If you were expected to block on that play for Warren, just block. Let's take the fumble out of it. Block. Don't stand there and sulk, because all he did was stand there and sulk. Mm-hmm. Okay, then he fumbles it. I turn out, screw it, I'm going back to the huddle. What are you going to talk about? Right? And I'm sorry. Okay? You want to know who's having a tough day? You want to know who's having a tough day? Okay? It's the end of the month.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
The single mother that has to make sure she has the mortgage money.
Sure.
Right? Had to drop off the kids at daycare. Had to get the mortgage money, because it's the end of the month. The mortgage is due.
Yeah.
Right? Or the person that's having the meeting today about being foreclosed on something.
100%.
Right? Guess what? They're having a tough day.
Yeah.
Okay? You had a play that wasn't going to be good anyway go against you. Okay, fine. Yeah. A play. Get back out there and play. You're 100%. Making how many millions of dollars a year? Go play. Yep. Right? A horrible example for every kid out there watching him play.
Yep. And I remember...
I'm telling you right now, it takes me seconds to cut him. Deontay Johnsons are a dime a dozen in the National Football League.
Especially at wide receiver. Yeah, wide receiver in the draft is one of the deepest positions that it's ever been. 100%.
They're a dime a dozen in the NFL. You can guess what? I can come up with 20 guys off the waiver wire right now that may not be as good as he happens to be, but guess what? Will be functional enough, and they'll give me more effort when I need it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it gets very discredited, and I'm not saying athletes have it easy. They don't. They bust their butts.
Hard.
They work very hard.
I'm saying, though, that's a play that went against you. Okay, absolutely. A play. Okay, okay. Guess what? There are people who have to make the mortgage at the end of the month. Guess who's having a tougher day? Them or you?
That's my point. And Chipper Jones several years ago, same thing. People don't understand how tough we have it. And that's when he was in a contract dispute with the Braves, and that was I'll never forget David Brody saying, set your alarm clock every morning at 7:15 and worry about getting your kids to school, and then worry about having to work 2 jobs and struggle to put food on the table. Then tell me how tough you have it. I'll never forget that, because that was 1,000% right on, as are you right now. And that's absolutely right on. Yeah. Do they have it easy? Heck no. Do they have it pretty well? They sure do.
Athletes work hard.
Bust their butts, without a doubt.
They have to be on diets that are different than everybody else. They have to be in weight training more than average. They've got to push themselves to physical limits, okay, that we don't have to do. All right? So they have it in their own way tough. But when it comes to the ability to, quote, earn your paycheck, you don't stand there and walk back to the huddle when the ball's being fumbled. Your job is to at least make the effort to get the ball. Okay? You're supposed to block in the play. Block somebody. Then go out and go after the football. Right? He did neither. He quit. He quit. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. You can't quit.
Yeah.
You can't. Okay? Hey, you're making enough money that tells me you can't quit.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, do you think Hines Ward would ever quit on the play?
Oh, heck no.
No.
Nope.
Lynn Swann. John Stallworth. Louis Lips. Naming all these Steeler receivers. Would they? Nope.
Not a chance.
It's crazy. You see something like that. And this was, okay. So just to let you know, all right, everybody knows I'm a big Red Sox fan and the whole thing. What was I always critical of David Ortiz about? The best clutch hitter I've ever seen in my lifetime in baseball.
He's in the conversation. Absolutely.
Right? And, but based on the history of the Red Sox, the number of clutch hits he got were unbelievable. Even in a series against Detroit in 2013 where he had two hits the whole series. 2 hits. That was it. Had a lousy ALCS. Oh, wait, except he hit the grand slam that bailed him out in game 1 in the ninth inning.
Yep.
Or it was game 2. Game 2, they'd already lost Anibal Sanchez and whatever. Game 2, he hits the grand slam. Right? But he did a ground ball to second into the shift. And he'd jog down to first, and he'd get about 2/3 of the way. They'd throw him out, and he'd turn to the dugout. Like, no. Run the ball out.
Bryce Harper doesn't do that, I can tell you that. And that's just not somebody.
Bryce Harper does not do that.
Fan speaking either.
And again,
that's
I'm somebody who was praised
speaking.
And was saying, "Hey, this is the the best DH in the history of the game," over and over and over again, and one of the great clutch hitters I've ever seen in my lifetime, and this that I praised him up side one down. But when he hit the ball the second into the shift, he'd jog and barely get 2/3 of the way down. And I always thought I'm sorry, that's not how the game should be played. That's just me. That's not how the game should be played.
That's me too. That's
all right. Yeah. And that's why. So why do I bring that up? Because I'm telling you, in my criticism of Deontay Johnson, I have the ability to look at one of my teams and be fair about it.
Yeah. Oh, Charlie Manuel benched Jimmy Rollins how many times for not running things out?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Chris Wheeler, big Charlie Manuel guy.
No, I think
I've talked to Wheels a lot about.
I think
Charlie
a lot of people in Philadelphia are big Charlie Manuel guys.
They are now. When he was managing, they weren't.
Well, I think it was a love-hate. I think it was. I think if you ask who the greatest manager in franchise history is, everybody's going to tell you Charlie Manuel. So I think it was kind of a love-hate.
There'll be some people that say Dallas Green.
There might be some people say Dallas Green. There might throw Larry Bowe in there as a regular manager too. Joe Girardi, I'll tell you. How about his year and change there?
Well,
he can't manage young players. Joe Girardi was a good manager. He can't manage young players. That was his downfall. That was his downfall in New York. It was his downfall in Philadelphia. I don't know why, but he just can't. He manages veterans fine. He just can't manage the younger guys.
Yeah.
Can I? No, but I don't think he can either.
By the way, Michigan, Ohio State, 19.1 million viewers. Yikes.
That's why Fox says we got first pick and we're taking that every year.
Yeah. That's something else. How about that? 19.1. Let's see here. What we got here? I've got the breakdown for the weekend. Ohio State, Michigan 19.1, Alabama, Auburn 9.1, Washington State 5.9, Georgia Tech 5.3, Florida State, Florida 5.1, Iowa, Nebraska 4.4, Penn State, Michigan State got 3.4 million
For
viewers.
a Friday night after Thanksgiving, that's
Friday
not bad
night.
at all. Yeah.
That's really good. 3.4 million viewers. NBC had to be thrilled with that. Wow. 3.4 million?
Yeah, and I think NBC will probably, going forward, is going to say, hey, that is one of our bigger games, and Labor Day is going to be one of our biggest games.
They're also going to get a better selection of games next year with the addition of the 4 West Coast teams because they can now
easier with November night games.
They can they can schedule games at 4:30 in the afternoon in Eugene, Seattle, and Los Angeles. That would end up being 7:30 Eastern time, and I think they'll get a better selection of game out of it. All right. That wraps it up for today. Yes, no quarterback club. Thus, here on a Wednesday. Stuck with you. My bud. Thanks for joining us here on Seven Mountains Media.